Hi, my name's Rich, and today we're going to be covering all the different spells that work with the Bladesinger subclass. That's going to be reworked in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. If this is your first time watching my videos, check out this other video I made covering the Bladesinger's changes and its abilities. In this we'll just be covering the spells. And if you're a returning subscriber, then thanks for subscribing, it's very nice of you. Now, let's get started. The cantrips, you can actually start using Blade Ward. It's a viable option now. When you hit level 6 you can attack, Blade Ward, and then bonus action whatever you feel like. True Strike is still a poor choice, but at least it's trying. Sword Burst is a good option for area of effect. If you're facing multiple enemies at the same time, like goblins or gnolls, this is a perfect spell. Booming Blade and Green Flame Blade are great at increasing the damage. The first letting you deal extra damage when the creature moves, and the second passing the damage on to a second creature. If you want to know more about Booming Blade, then check out my video, linked up in the corner there. You can also use Mold Earth to create cover if you're using a ranged weapon instead of a melee weapon. And Poison Spray is an interesting one. By the time you hit level 6 and you can use one of these cantrips as an attack, it can deal 2d12 damage and it's relatively close ranged. Of course the downside is that con saves and poison damage are resisted by a lot of creatures when you get to that higher level, but it's still something to think about. At level 1, the Bladesinger has several options for melee orientated spells. Absorb Elements, Shield, and Earth Tremor are really good defense options. Earth Tremor letting you try to knock people down and gaining advantage on your attacks afterwards. Force Life is a good option because it helps add extra hit points to you, and it scales so you can cast it at higher levels. And as a melee wizard you're very susceptible to having low hit points, so this can be a great way to sustain yourself. Mage Armor might be a good pick at first level, but when you hit the second level Bladesinger, you get proficiency in light armor, so it's a bit of a wasted spell slot. The Grease spell is a great way to knock people prone in a group around you so you can keep on attacking, and if they fail their dex save then you have advantage. Also, a Summon Familiar might be a very good investment because you can use your Familiar to distract enemies and gain advantage on attacks. This works very well if you multiclass into the Rogue because the sneak attack damage can just go up and up. At level 2, the Wizard gets access to Enlarge and Reduce. You can use this to beef yourself up and give extra 1d4 damage for every melee hit that lands. Dragon's Breath is also a good option because you can use it as a bonus action and it can have reoccurring damage. I'm not sure how it would interact with the Blade Song because you're singing the Blade Song and shooting fire out of your mouth at the same time. You have access to the Magic Weapon spell or the Shadow Blade spell. I think if given both options I would choose the Shadow Blade until you get multiple attacks, and then Magic Weapon might gain advantage over it. Unless you get a magic +1 weapon over the course of your campaign, Shadow Blade is a better option. You can also pick up Mirror Image to reduce the damage you take, and Misty Step to try and get in and out of combat when needed. Misty Step is a great panic button. If everything starts going south you can just jump out and recoup. The third level wizard spells, most wizards would be jumping to get Counterspell or Fireball, but you have different options being a melee orientated character. Curse is melee range, so if you can get up close and curse someone on the first round, it can really give the edge to your party if you're fighting one giant enemy as opposed to several smaller ones. Haste is a good option to give yourself the ability to get extra attacks. Melf's Minute Meteors are good for damage and also they're a bonus action. They keep shooting out between 3 to 6 turns. You can choose Protection from Energy for a solid defense, and Spirit Shroud is an unearthed arcana. It gives you extra melee damage every time you hit. If you didn't pick up Misty Step at second level, then Thunder Step is a great way to get away from enemies and deals a fair amount of damage as well. And finally, Vampiric Touch is a great way to top up your hit points if you manage to take damage. At level 4, you get access to Fire Shield. It grants you resistance to fire or cold damage. And if anybody tries to attack you, then you can cast some damage back at them. You can also pick up Stone Skin at level 4. So if you get a chance to use this before the fight starts, it can give you the edge in melee combat. Level 5 gives you Cone of Cold. It can cover a big surface area, and if you get up close to your enemies you can cover the whole battlefield at the right angle. Combining this with Misty Step to get you in the right position is a great combo. You can also cast Far Step, which lets you get a recurring teleportation every bonus action, and because this lasts for several rounds, it can be a great way to jump in and out of combat without triggering a reaction attack. At level 6 you get several super powerful spells. The first one you should be looking at is Tensor's Transformation. It can give you a variety of different powerful effects, and one of these would be good, but all of these combined together makes you almost unbeatable in hand-to-hand combat. You also gain Contingency at this level. I don't know any specific combinations, but I'm sure if you start using your imagination you can think of ways to trigger something so you're not caught off guard. Globe of Invulnerability is a powerful spell, and you would have to start using your initiative to try and figure out the best way to use it in combat, but locking out all of the spells can make you have a one-to-one combat with someone without any interference. There's also the Investure of Fire, of Ice, of Stone and Wind. These are good spells to beef you up, the Stone one especially good for defense. But if you have Tensor's Transformation already, it's almost redundant. At level 7, you get Crown of Stars, which is similar to Melf's Minute Meteors. Prismatic Spray is great for hitting a group of enemies that have low hit points. And Mordenkainen's Sword is a great source of damage. There are so many great spells at level 8, but the one that stands out the most to me is Power Word Stun. It's still crazy that the monk gets the ability to stun people at 5th level, but don't pass it up if you're a melee fighter. Power Word Stun can turn the tide of battle quite quickly. And finally, at level 9, if you have access to Icewind Dale Rime of the Frost Maiden, there is a spell called Blades of Disaster, which makes a temporal blade that slashes through the cosmos and deals huge amounts of damage. You get the Invulnerability spell, which prevents you from taking damage for 10 minutes. You can get Time Stop to live out your JoJo fantasies. And you have Wish. If you have access to the Wish spell, then beating someone in hand-to-hand combat shouldn't be the focus of your character. I think you've moved well beyond the scope of that. Overall, I would say the Bladesinger is a specialised class, and it can work at certain levels, but it's almost like you're trying to have the best of both melee and wizard spells. I think if you focused more on one aspect, you would have greater strength overall. I would give it a B+, if we're ranking it on the tier list. Now, do you agree with me? Either way, I'd like to know in the comments what you think of the Bladesinger. I think it's a great addition, and now that you can use any race, I'm sure, roleplay-wise, you can figure out some fantastic stories to tell. Well, thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you later. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give me a like. Every like helps with the algorithm and helps the channel grow. Okay, have a nice day. Goodbye.